Protagonists in Latin America. Simón Bolívar. Bolivar's girlfriend was honored when she was buried in Venezuela next to her lover. BBC News, 2010, her name was Manuela Sucre. Chaz team describes him as the liberator. He had begun his triumphs in the 117th. He had participated in the Venezuela struggle from the start. The royalist defeating the patriots had been a personal defeat for him. He had learnt and had planned to get the Llaneros on his side. After convincing the Llaneros to switch sides, he had more success. Bolivar's Llaneros went through the Orinoco Plains and then climbed the Andes, taking the Spaniards by surprise. The viceregal capital of Bogotá fell to Bolivar. By late 1822, they had also captured Caracas and Quito, and they were controlling all of North-South America. José de San Martin. He had trained a combined Argentine-Chilean Patriot Army in western Argentina, and then crossed the Andes unexpectedly, in a surprise attack, and defeated Chilean royalists. San Martin was welcomed, and then he prepared for an expedition to Lima after 3 years. The viceroy withdrew from Peru into the Peruvian highlands, and he declared Peru's independence. His army had bogged down, so he couldn't consolidate. Bolívar invited him to Guayaquil, and San Martin returned, and Bolívar led the final assault on the Spaniards. He gained victory in 1824, and liberated 2 more countries, Bolivia. However, not all was liberated, and there was power politics. The Creoles did better than the rest, so there was an hierarchical society. So the countries were post-colonial. Antonio José de Sucre. Born in Venezuela, Bolívar's friend. He fought for independence in New Granada and Venezuela. And he was a main patriot in the work in Quito. Responsible for the liberalization of Upper Peru, he became the first president of Bolivia. He applied Enlightenment ideas, and was assassinated in Colombia in 1800. Santander, Bolívar's companion, was left in charge of Colombia. In 1821, Bolívar liberated Caracas. Sucre defeated the Spaniards in the Battle of Pichincha in May 1922. In Peru, the Creoles had reoccupied Peru for Spain, but Sucre and Bolívar went on to capturing it again. Cortés. In 1504, he sailed for Santo Domingo. He then went to Cuba in 1511. He assisted Velázquez. In 1518, he convinced to let him expedition to Mexico, which had rumored to have contained a lot of wealth. Before sailing, he had been rejected for the expedition, but he still went, and Velázquez was suspicious. The Aztec emperor was Moctezuma II, and their capital was in Tenochtitlan. It is said that there was a prophecy that a white-skinned god would come from the east. Moctezuma gave him gifts, but fearing change in view, Cortés took him hostage. In April 1520, Velázquez sent for people to capture him, and as he wanted to fight them, the capital was taken back from the Aztecs, and due to a stone being projected, the emperor died. In 1521, he returned, and this time there was a 3-month siege, and he turned it into Mexico City, and caused a lot of suffering. In 1523, he was governor and captain general of New Spain, Mexico. He also was becoming too powerful, so he was forced to return to Spain. In 1541, he was bitter and died. Interestingly, this is a reflection on a poem about Cortés in which he is cursed. The poem Cortés by Pablo Neruda has a curse in which he will cry. Marti and Maceo, Cuban War of Independence. Túpac Amaru II rebelled in 1780. This rebellion shook the high Andes and sent a shock wave throughout Spanish America. He was a mestizo landowner. He claimed royal Incan descent. Túpac Amaru had fought the Spanish conquest hundreds. His initial proclamation was anti-peninsular. He called for an alliance between American-born whites, mestizos, and the indigenous. However, it was primarily indigenous and raged out of control. It leaped south through the high plateaus of dense indigenous populations. It went for Peru, which is modern Bolivia. Another leader revolted from there called Túpac Katari. Many thousands died, and the peninsulars were scared. In 1781, the government caught Túpac Amaru and his family, and him and his followers were executed and drawn and quartered limb by horses. He was protesting against the forced taxes and loans put in by Charles III, 1759–1788. His followers didn't surrender, and under the leadership of Túpac Katari they continued. They went on to lay the siege of La Paz. The revolt didn't end until 1782. The indigenous weren't cooperating, and there was the fear of a race war. From March to June 1781, another mestizo Galán led the Comunero revolt in Colombia. They were opposing taxation and land being usurped. The Peruvian revolts were crushed, but the Colombian revolt had negotiations, and once the rebels left, the Spanish authority revoked the concessions. They put back the taxes and executed the revolutionaries.